What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? The moon's in Capricorn, and this is always an interesting one to talk about when you think about the moon there, because that's where the moon is furthest away from home in Capricorn, so it's in its detriment. But I do find that Capricorn allows us to kind of ground ourselves a little bit, especially if the emotions have been kind of stirring up there, and remember our responsibilities and the weight that we have to, or not the weight, but the achievements that then the things that need to get done and built on this journey. But we'll get into all that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin, and one of the things that I do, or know that when you come across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and who doesn't love that? But there's also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements. Sun, moon, rising, maybe Saturn, wherever. This one's for you. And or if you just, if everyone has a Cancer placement in their chart, it always pays to know where the moon's at. It pays to know what the lunar shenanigans is. So this is essentially for everybody. But I also do tarot card spreads based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase it's in, when it's going forward. Of course, just all them lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Now, let's jump into it, because we got a little bit to talk about today. Yeah, I do. It's always an interesting time when the moon's in Cap. This is kind of a quieter time in my chart, so I don't mind the moon in Cap. But before we get into that, depending on when you're watching this, happy Jupiter Day. Jupiter's associated with Thursdays, and who doesn't love a good Jupiter Day? I find that Jupiter days can be great for expanding one's worldview. That's one thing that Jupiter is about looking for the things that are larger than life, great for philosophizing. I think even too for just sharing the wisdom that you have, sharing your experiences, because your point of view is unique from everybody else's. So, yeah, any sort of thing that can just raise the vibration, but also I think too, this is not just a time, I think, to just like share in the, just like reap all the abundance, but to spread the abundance around. So this could be just like paying someone a compliment if you notice something that they're wearing that you like, or, holding a door open, or just, those acts of kindness, kind of spreading that stuff around. I think just, throwing a smile somebody's way. I think that can, just help raise the vibration. But also, one thing that I like doing with working with these days and hours as well, is just thinking about my relationship with Jupiter, not just natally, but how do I understand, or how do I work with like Jupiter transits? When transiting Jupiter's moving up. Actually, Jupiter's coming up on my Mars here. Been thinking about that one. I got some things that are coming into the mix, some intentions that I have for that. And then how do you do when planets are aspecting your Jupiter? Mars is coming up my natal Jupiter, so it's kind of strange what's happening right now. A lot of Mars Jupiter action, and yeah, so my chart's pretty active right now, but it's fine. But it's this to kind of help give eyes on that. Like, okay, what's going to be priority today? You know what? I got all these other transits. Like, okay, what do I think about this Jupiter transit that's coming up? That's a bit slower than these other ones. Like, okay, let me just steep myself in that for a little bit. So those can be just some nice ways to just kind of help ground the astrology a little bit, make it more digestible. So something to play around with. But let's get into the lunar shenanigans, because on the 15th of May, the moon is going to enter, or would have entered into Capricorn at about 12:58 p.m., and that's going to be Pacific time, and we're in a waning gibbous phase. And the moon in Capricorn, like I was saying, this is where the moon finds itself in its detriment. And that just means that the planet is furthest away from its home sign. So it's operating, it's like, when you're at home and you know where everything is, you're functioning great. But if you go to somewhere that you've never been before, it's just like, oh, F. Then maybe they don't have the tools that you need, and you kind of have to work with what you're working with. And you're under the responsibility of someone else, and in this instance, we're under the responsibility of Saturn. So we got to be on our best behavior. But what I like about Capricorn energy, it's a mixed bag with Cap, or at least the moon here. It's one of those things where I think sometimes Capricorn energy can be so focused on the responsibilities, on what that needs to be achieved, that it doesn't give enough time to acknowledge the feelings that this is hard. That it is okay to just take a minute and just like, man, I'm really not feeling it today. And whatever it is, we all have those days where, where we show up and show out, and other times it's just like, I just want to stay in bed. And I think that Capricorn sometimes will push past those feelings, and sometimes you need that. there's sometimes where, even though it's like, yeah, this has been a lot, but I got to grit and bear it. I got this great work that I'm trying to get done. I only have so much time that I can do this thing. Because Saturn, and then let's talk about Capricorn for a little bit. Saturn is the cardinal earth sign. They're receptive or yin in nature, just like Cancer in that regard, and being a cardinal sign. But like I said, it's under the rulership of Saturn. And one of those things that Saturn covers is time. And sometimes in time where it feels like things can take forever, but at the same time, you don't have forever. So there's this urgency that kind of comes there, and when things are taking so long, you can feel this heaviness from Saturn. I think that sometimes that's where Capricorn and Aquarius get that, where it's like they have these great visions, these great dreams, but yeah, having that weight of Saturn, it can be a lot sometimes. You can get in your head, you can get in your emotions, and I think that the moon here, if it can find a way to like incorporate sort of like those sort of self-care things in your work, finding ways where it's just like, what, I need to remember that I need to take a little time off from this thing so that I can go get inspired to come back and have more inspiration for this. Because I think that Capricorn, they are being this earth sign, they have this dream, they have this vision, and that they can give it form. They're you can think of almost like the body as a Capricorn type of action, just like the I achieve, and it's like, that is an achievement. We're made it this far. Every day is kind of like, all right, we're doing it. But then it's just like, what am I doing with it? What am I building? What am I here to do? What is my soul calling? What does Saturn want? Because even though Saturn can feel heavy and about discipline and task and things like that, Saturn knows that you have big goals. This is like your whole universe trying to manifest in this space. So what the hell does that look like? Let's do something spectacular with it, something that not just you're going to appreciate, but people will appreciate it for long times to come. People will draw inspiration from to continue to do the great work, and to maybe your work helps their work evolve into something. Who knows with Saturn? But it'll be epic. That's all Saturn cares about. So, but it does require that you got to show up each day. And so I do think that where, the moon in Capricorn, again, it could be, and actually, while I'm talking about this moon in Capricorn, let's go ahead and switch over to this chart. But here we have the moon here at 0 degrees of Capricorn. But yeah, I think where the moon in Capricorn can feel a little tough sometimes, I think it's great for thinking about what are my long-term goals? What are some things what am I actually working towards? It's not just, it's getting out of the everyday and getting into the bigger picture of this thing. What am I trying to give form here? Because the moon's going to be forming about 4 aspects, well, 5 if we include the nodes, but it's going to be hitting up about 4 of the planets here. It's going to start off in a nice kind of harmonious aspect here with Mercury. Let me draw those in harmonious colors. But it's going to start off, this thing is doing some weird stuff right now, hold on. Okay, but it's going to start, everything's going to be in blue now because it's doing a lot. But the moon and Mercury are having this lovely trine connection where this can be like you have some sort of like inspiration or like, okay, I've been thinking about this plan. This is what I want to build. This is a kind of a trine between earth energy. So what you're feeling and what your mind and the emotions are in alignment here. We love trine energy. But shortly after, the moon's going to form a square with Venus. So it's like, okay, I may have this idea, I may have this vision, but how am I going to inspire others at Venus and Aries to do that thing? What do I need to do to attract others? That might be where that square energy might present a challenge with the moon, maybe a bit of frustration there, but it's still Venus. This can be where you can talk with someone to help you give this thing vision, to give it some fuel, to give it some fire, where it's like you may have the plan, but it's just like, how do I make it more exciting? How do I make it more, where it feels more achievable? And I think that'll lead to, because as the moon moves through Capricorn, eventually it's going to form another little trine here with the sun. That's a nice little another aspect. A feeling of that sense of will, kind of feeling on the same page with your kind of your soul's alignment here. I really like the trine between the sun and when the sun and the moon are trying one another, especially in earth signs. This can again help you get maybe some ideas, get something concrete. Maybe this is getting up a blueprint for something. This is scheduling that meeting for someone. This is maybe getting that first step on a project started, whatever that is. But then the kind of nice thing that it ends on with a nice sextile here with Saturn. And anytime we have any sort of positive aspects with Saturn, we take them. We take them and run with them. Because I find with this one, this can just, again, Saturn gives things form, gives things structure. In a sextile, it can maybe make the work feel a bit easier. So maybe you've been wanting to start like a second business or something like that, or like a side hustle or like a hobby. This could help Saturn like help you make the time for that. You know, whatever that looks like. Okay, if I move around this thing, and that thing, put in a little bit of work, then bam. Now we got to use our imagination, that's Saturn and Pisces, then bam, we got whatever it is that we're wanting to get up there moving. So yeah, I think some very interesting energies that'll come through with this moon over the next days, but ultimately a lot of flow with just I think it's just going to depend on with that Venus square there. You know, it's going to depend on if you have maybe a lot of cardinal placements. We're talking about Libra and Aries in particular, but Cancer as well. You know, to see how you do when the moon is in Cancer or in Capricorn, and sometimes that changes. You know, usually like the previous sign that we were in Sagittarius usually is a pretty flowing time for me, but it's been some trickiness that came up this last go around, and this isn't the first time that's happened. You know, so sometimes those lunations will hit different. so carefully keep an eye on that. But let's go ahead and switch into your general energy of the day, which you got all this air. It's hexagram 57, which is the wind hexagram, and it's wind over wind. And you got changing line number 6. So if you want to check that out, there are a number of sources out there that have the I-Ching there on there, but I have one in the description box that I get the kanji from. So definitely check that out. There's all types of books on it too. They're really great sources. But let's talk about your changing line here, because this is an interesting one. This talks about crouching under the bed. The travel money is lost. Misfortune. And so this crouching under the bed gives me like we're hiding from something. So if there's anything that maybe come up over this lunation, where this would be a great time, I think, to, if you got to own up to something, own up. Because like this travel money, maybe there was some sort of, maybe we made a bad investment, or maybe there was some gambling that was involved, or whatever that this thing may be. I think that this is, again, making, if you don't own up to it, not only is the money going to be lost, but there's going to be misfortune on top of it, because maybe this is something where you may hear from your bank, you may hear from a partner or a spouse, you might hear from a family member or a friend. So yeah, that's just one thing that I'm getting from this hexagram. Another feels almost like a missing out on an opportunity, and the misfortune doesn't feel as bad, but it think that it's translating more into regret, that I coulda, shoulda, woulda type of thing. You know, maybe we were, because it feels like the travel money talks about, it feels like that an opportunity is lost because that we were maybe there's an energy of being afraid of taking some sort of risk. It doesn't have to be like a wild risk, but something that would have pushed you out of your comfort zone in a sense. And then we end up to this place where we're just like running the scenarios, what could have been, what should have been, and yeah, just playing at that loop. I keep getting like the 9 of Swords energy when I'm thinking about this hexagram. So yeah, especially if you're feeling nervous or anxious about something, I'd let it, don't let that air build up. Don't let someone's, the imagination run wild there. I think that communication, I think it would be key with this whatever this situation may be coming up here. And we'll get a little bit more as we get into the tarot. But last couple of things here before we jump into that. These readings that I do, they're not gender-specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And I'm going to talk about like different subjects, whether it be about money matters, health, romance, legal matters, but it's by no means professional advice. Talk to your lawyers, your doctors, your healthcare, your physicians, all those therapists, all those great people doing that great work. Now, I'm going to pull 6 cards here, and they're going to cover different themes. And considering that you got changing line number 6, we're going to get a clarifier for that card there. But the first card I'm going to pull is going to regard any sort of like short-term money matters. So if you got any kind of like financial questions, that's what this area is going to cover here. Oh, interesting. I think you got something about this last time. Huh. And last time the Fool was in reverse. But you got the Fool upright here. And I mean, let's go back to the hexagram for a minute. We were talking about maybe taking a risk. This could be where if you're thinking about, and again, this doesn't feel like a unnecessary risk. This could be where maybe you need to put yourself out there more. Maybe you need to go to, like, maybe you've been invited to some sort of event and where you may not like the having to turn it on, to have to do the socializing, the maybe getting dressed, kind of having to maybe play the part in a sense, kind of be like lean a little, to be a little extra. You don't know what kind of doors that may open up for you just by taking those little steps there. But this could be where maybe you're thinking about going in on like a business idea. And again, do your research with this, but this could be where you're at least just entertaining the idea. There's something fresh that's come through there. I love that you have all of this air. The Fool card, it can be represented by the element of air here. So I think that there's something here, like if you have like this idea, this thought, this thing, and not even just for like investing your money. This could be like something in investing your time. Our time is more valuable than money. So I would just say if you got any sort of thing, I think it's worth at least weighing the pros and cons, like maybe doing like a sort of like a board or something, like letting them not just be thoughts anymore, but grounding them. And this would be great. The moon being in Capricorn during this time, this would be great. And again, there may be a little bit of tension there. We had something with Venus, but it's still Venus. Again, it may feel a little uncomfortable. We may be a little out of our element, but once we get in that flow, it gets easier, whatever this thing may be. So you get a green light from spirit like that, from the angel, that's at least something to just kind of mull over. But let's get into your next card, which is going to, if you came here thinking about any sort of like health matters or medical concerns, things about things along those lines. Let's see what's going on with the body. So you got the Eight of Pentacles here. And this, to me, the Eight of Pentacles is really just kind of hard work. And this may be something where I would be mindful about pushing yourself a little too hard. There's a way of, this is Virgo energy here. This is the Sun in Virgo, the Eight of Pentacles. And Virgo is not just about just working hard, I think, like Capricorn does. Virgo is about being efficient, finding the most practical way of doing something, whatever that thing may be. So this is giving me where if you've been working maybe like 60 hours and doing just like really, really crazy overtime, it's like, to what end? Like I think it's something that is kind of coming up there. But I'm also getting a mix though, even just going back to this Fool here, that there may be something where if you're thinking about starting up something, you might be adjusting your schedule a little bit. You might be getting a little, I don't want to say like necessarily sleep deprived, but something may be demanding a bit more energy from you than maybe you're used to. You may need to be in kind of like a grind mode a little bit. We may not have as much sort of like, I don't want to say it's not leisure time, but maybe like what you maybe instead of like, maybe you used to have time where you like just kind of clock out for a little bit, maybe like an hour or so, maybe we do some scrolling, maybe we watch something, but now it's like, no, I actually need to I need that hour. I need that hour for some sleep, or I need that hour for this, or I need this hour for that. It's like you're allocating things differently. And so that might be, it's just like, how can you make the best of your resources? And again, that's your stuff, your time, money, all that, all those things there. So, and just a little something to think about. Now, the next one is going to be about any sort of like legal matters, social affairs. So let's see what's going on. If you have any questions for those, to see what that energy's looking like. So you have the Judgment card here, Elemental Fire. And that's interesting. I'm getting for some that maybe there's this epiphany that maybe there's a need to change a social group, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that there's a negative thing that's going on. It could just be that maybe you're in the state of where you're evolving, your will is changing. That elemental fire, something in you is stirring, and you're needing to be around a certain type of a different type of group, a different type of vibe, different type of energy. Maybe you've been around a lot of water and you need something a bit more earthy now. Maybe that's something like that. someone that's going to help you, maybe introduce you to open some new doors here. Because maybe this Eight of Pentacles have been feeling kind of like sort of same old monotonous thing, and the Fool's looking for something fresh, something exciting. So that's just one thing that's happening. I am getting with a sort of like a legal matters that there's like, it's like a judgment is not necessarily is like being cast, but there's like, we're getting ready to reach some sort of decision here. Maybe you're waiting on an answer for a settlement. It's something that's been a lot of work, but with this Fool here, maybe there's something like new beginnings are getting ready to happen here. Like, but I do feel like something's getting ready to come to a close here. Now that one, it's getting a little, it may not be a great situation, but at least at the end, it's like whatever this, once it's resolved, then you can just kind of cut your ties. Well, yeah, well, it was a lot of work. It might have taken up something from you, but now we're freed up. That energy's done. It's done, kind of sapping away from us. So now, yeah, that's what I'm really kind of feeling with the Judgment card there. With the legal matters too. I am getting something about a just money shenanigans. Like being mindful about borrowing things, whatever that might be. Looking out, taking out just like just like investments, things along those lines. Just a little something to just a little caveat there. Let's get into your next card here, which talks about any sort of like romantic matters, marriage, things along those lines. Let's see how the love's doing. So you got the Four of Cups in reverse here, and this one's giving me that's an interesting thing. One, I'm getting this energy. Maybe you've been if you're looking for a relationship, it seems like maybe were wanting to switch something up a little bit. Maybe it's not maybe it's necessarily that you've maybe like the same type of person. Maybe you've always dated like people in your workplace, or maybe you've been one that maybe likes only date people who do certain sports, or whatever those, maybe whatever preferences or things you have. It just seems like that something is not enough, and there's maybe a need to just kind of shake things up a little bit. Maybe if you're used to meeting. I've been on a dating game for a minute, but maybe it's like if you've been, instead of like maybe looking online, maybe you go to like different social events, because it's like maybe you tend to meet the same people. It's like the maybe promises on the internet, and then you get catfished, and then there's the whole thing. So now we're just like, enough of that. Let's go ahead and now I'm gonna just see you in person. We're gonna judge the character. There's gonna be no you can't fake this. You can't take time to think. Like it just like getting more sort of like they get more immediate results. It's like that's just like a one example of what that is looking like. But I'm also getting to, maybe if you're in like an existing relationship, it's like something is like a behavior is needing to change, possibly like maybe kind of having enough of something. Not necessarily that your person is not enough, but it's just like, hey, maybe we've been doing the same old thing, or this is how I'm used to maybe receiving you, or maybe how you're used to receiving me, and it's just like this. I want to change the dynamic up a little bit. I want to do something to get the waters moving, because it's interesting with the fours, they give that sense of stability, but when you keep water in a container for a while, the water gets stale. Water's got to be flowing, I think of the elements. And I'd be mindful too, maybe just about keeping feelings bottled up. There's a way that you can talk about this thing that doesn't have to necessarily have to hurt people's feelings. It can be tough thing, maybe to talk about this thing, but it's better than not, and letting things build up and then it coming out in another sort of way. Coming out in a way that doesn't feel like it's warranted, and then things get blown out of proportion, and then nothing gets accomplished, and now then there we're right. So, just something to think about there. Now let's get into your fifth card, which talks about any sort of like immediately pressing affairs. So if you got any sort of like questions, just any sort of general questions right now, let's see what's going on with that. Oop. So you got the Four of Swords here. And I think that there's an energy here. I've just got like a relax if you've been maybe kind of stressing out about something. And I'm even getting kind of drawn to this Eight of Pentacles. It's almost like we've been, yeah, just kind of working, trying to work something. It's just like, now I just need to just kind of just be for a minute. You know, you've done all that you can. I'm almost getting like a kind of like a waiting game. Maybe you're waiting to hear back from someone. So in the meantime, it's like, well, what more work can I do? It's just like, you know, rest for a little bit. Rest is work. Recharge your battery so that when you do get the answer, maybe that you're waiting to receive, you're ready to do so, as opposed to we're starting up something else and then now you got another thing on the mix there. That's just something that's kind of coming up there. I am getting to about meditating on a situation, maybe even looking for guidance. I'm kind of looking at these people in the stained glass window here, kind of looking up. It's almost like the person's looking up to the other person, and it giving me something about like maybe meditating on a choice. And that might be going back to that Fool. Maybe that's that investment. We're thinking about something. We had some kind of realization. Maybe you want to join some sort of group, invest in some sort of course or maybe some sort of class. And this could be just like would this be the wisest investment? Do I have the capacity to do this work? This Eight of Pentacles here. Is it going to keep me fulfilled? So that might be something that might be coming through there as well. With this Four of Swords. Yeah, that's all I got for you on that one. Let's get to your last card here, which talks about the destiny of the karma of a situation. So if you're looking for like to see how a situation's gonna turn out, let's see what's going on with that. So you got the Page of Wands here. I love the Page of Wands. That to me is this. It's exciting energy, and I think that going back to that Fool, if you start up some sort of investment into some sort of like new project, endeavor, whatever that is, even though with the Moon in Capricorn, this could be something where of course it's going to be work, but it's going to be enjoyable work, something that'll kind of fuel you up there. The Page of Wands is like the fire, the earthly part of fire. And again, that's the will trying to manifest. It's just like it's wild energy with the Page of Wands, but it's really just kind of exciting as well. That's why I think that whatever decision that you make, I think that it could be the beginning of something really, really spectacular. But let's get a clarifier on that. So what's going on with that page? So you got the Ten of Cups here, and that's nice. That's feeling full, feeling satiated by something like the vision. And I think that there's something too, like if you got this vision in your head, let's make it happen. Whatever this decision is, I think that it's something that would again lead to. And not just you. I think that the people that are around you, they're gonna vibe with that energy, and that's gonna inspire them to, and that's you got the Judgment here, in your social sphere. That might be something where maybe you're noticing other people doing some things. They're starting to answer the call, and it's just like, what are you waiting for? You can almost get this feeling of like not wanting to be left behind. Not. That this can grow. You know what I mean? This could go somewhere further. So that's a very interesting energy that's coming through there. I like that. Let's get some advice from Saturn. I'm with it. You got the Six of Cups up right here. Let's switch over. And this to me is just like, you're making more time for, it's something that, again, maybe it'll be work, but it's going to be something that you may enjoy, where it's like, yeah, maybe a little bit of hard time, like kind of like working in, let's say you want to work in like a hobby, but then when you're in it for that hour, it's just like, man, I'm really glad that I did this. Like this is something that's just really fulfilling, and something that you could maybe potentially enjoy, like share with someone else in this. You know, maybe you can get involved in some sort of group, or maybe you got a friend who gets interested in what you're doing, or maybe like a partner or whatever that might be. But it's almost like with Saturn, it's like almost wanting more kind of, not necessarily leisure, but more enjoyment maybe in this, in the kind of the day to day with the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups is a really nice card. You know, it's one that, and this is advice from Saturn. So it's like it's ones that it's of ease, you know, but I think that it's ease that you've worked for, ease that you've incorporated into you, that you've built in to your day to day there. And I think that as Saturn is finishing up its time in Pisces, I think that would be something to really kind of think about. It's like, is this how things you've imagined things, and where do you want to take stuff further? How do you want to soar higher in a sense? Take a bird's eye view of your life, and what areas looking like it could use a bit more fun, maybe a little bit lighter energy that's kind of coming through there. And that might be something perfect to do as we move into get closer to Gemini season. So something to think about. But I like this reading. This was pretty dope. So if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who gets some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, you fool. Hit that bell button to get notified when I release videos each day. And then let's get your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to work with the lunar transits, or any of the transits more personally, get to know your natal chart better, down in the description box there's a link for the services that I provide, and an email to get in touch with me if you have any questions about that. And also, if you want to follow the celestial bodies and see what's going on in the weekly transits, I do videos on my other channel, Alchemist 8, where I release them every Mercury day, and it just talks about where the planets are at, what placements are to look at for, as like what signs may be feeling this more actively than others, and then just how to work with the energies as best as humanly possible. Really try to bring from as above, so below. So, and then if I'm also doing this series where I do different planetary videos, and they talk about the different celestial bodies and different signs and different houses. So I have them all listed by playlist. I'm going to be adding more here soon. My behind the scenes have been getting a little busy. I've been in a lot of socializing energy the last little bit, but yeah, I'm going to be getting more of those start getting more of those cranked out here soon. So stay tuned for those, and feel free to make any kind of requests if you want to as well. I'm actually finishing up some requests as we speak. All right, let's get into your. Actually, hold on one moment. All right, we're back. Let's get into your surprise card, which is the Three Faces of God. And this talks about really it's almost like when you think about, it's like Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. It's like the creation, the maintenance, and then the destruction of a thing. I think that maybe we're in this phase where it's like we're going from it's almost like the maintenance to the destruction end of something. It's not like a tower. It's almost just like a rearranging. Like I said, it's like there's a new thing that's ready to be created, but in order to do that, something that we've been maintaining for a while needs to be destroyed, so you can continue to do that thing. And it's like it's getting it to where, and that's something interesting, it's getting it to where it's almost like feeling less clunky. Where maybe if things felt like it was just sort of like just like changes, like kind of erratic changes. Saturn in Pisces, I think, is wanting to have more flowing changes, so that when it gets into Aries, it's not going to be like, we're more in the flow. And then when maybe things take a while, we can still sustain the will, but stretch that out a bit more, learn how to ride the waves more, so then that is not less, not as clunky is the word that I'm getting with this kind of Three Faces of God here. It's almost even too kind of giving me just like the Wheel of Fortune sort of vibes that, we're always in the state of the where the wheel's spinning, but it's like instead of just like getting pulled on the wheel, it's getting in the center of the wheel and observing the changes, observing the flow, and then responding in kind. It's like how the seasons change when we get signs the birds are really chirping, the worms are coming out of the ground, things are coming to life. Like, okay, we know to sow seeds, we know to do this stuff. And then as it starts to get colder and the leaves change, it's like, okay, we got to start harvesting, we got to start saving up because then things are about to get real dark soon. And, it's just about being a part of those kind of cycles. I like this. I really like this card. So it kind of has the yin yang kind of going in there, the colors blending, the trees, everything's just kind of blended together. And that's what it feels like. It's like you just kind of weaving yourself in the chaos. I almost thought I saw like a dragon or something. It's something sitting in this tree here. So yeah, some kind of mastery going on there. I'm gonna have to meditate with this card a little bit. But that's all I got for you there. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon. And I will catch you on the next one. When am I going to catch you? Ah, lovely. Oh, wait a minute. What day am I going to catch you? Oh, okay, got it. Saturn Day.